begin with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
if you're not able to hear me, you just raise your hand and I'll try to talk a little louder. I was given a retreat once to a bunch of monks. That's quite a challenge in and of itself. I thought I was doing all right. After the third conference, one of the old curmudgeons came up. He said, "You know you swallow the last line of everything you say?" I said, "No, I didn't know that." "Well, you do." "Oh, all right, I'm glad to hear it. And you do that especially," he said, "when you tell a joke. You get right up to the punchline and then you swallow." I'm sorry. He said, "And so far the jokes have been the only thing worth listening to." Yesterday, we went a little bit through Holy Thursday. We really had a final meal with Jesus. It was a Passover meal. We knew that. We knew what that meant because of our background. It meant it was a meal representing freedom, liberation, making memory of the great event that God had done for us in the past, but also still in the present and hopefully in the future. We know that at that meal, Jesus switched the words a little bit, told us some things we had not heard before, certainly not in a Passover context, about himself. Gave us himself, even though at the time it might not have been evident what that meant. From our later perspective, we know what that meant, his presence, so that we can still, now, today, do what he did, making him present to us, to our collective memory. And so that was all important. But then he did something else that was really strange. He lined us up and he washed our feet. That was uncomfortable. We didn't like that at first, maybe not even at last, but nonetheless, we weren't given a choice. We didn't like it when he came off of his official place, took off his official clothing, became like us, and then went around and started washing our feet. That did not seem proper. We would have gladly have done that for him, but that wasn't the option. He looked like a servant. He acted like a servant. He talked like a servant. And then he told us, well, he more than told us, he commanded us. We have to do the same thing for one another. That's how we are going to keep his presence alive, not just by the common meal. We didn't mind that because we didn't have to do much. But now we discover it's not just a devotional kind of thing. It's not a theory. It's not a thought. It's a practice. You have to put it into practice. We have to do for one another what he did for us. That makes it all more difficult. Notice the modeling that he did. It was not a modeling of a king. It was not the modeling of somebody who can dominate. It wasn't like the Roman emperor. It wasn't like the Pharaoh. It wasn't like somebody who has grand power and who can do whatever he or she wants with that power. No, he went the exact opposite way. Chose deliberately, it seems to us, the model that we do not find attractive at all. The model that we want to shun, that we want to flee from. The model of a slave. The model of a servant. We know if we read other places in the New Testament that comes back over and over again. You want to be first, you have to be last of all and servant of all. You want to be great, you have to be least. We don't like that. We like the other way. We want to be great. We want to be rich. We want to be powerful. We want to dominate. We want to dress up in finery. We want to show people that we have arrived. You don't do that when you're down there on your hands and knees washing feet. You remember, it wasn't an option. He didn't begin by saying, I want you to think about this and tell me what you think. He didn't care what we thought. He just told us, here's what to do. So it matters. Our religion, our faith, is an action. It's not something you just sit around and think about. Well, you can do that, but it doesn't work until you put it into practice. Friday of Holy Week is a very profound day. I find the symbolism of it to be immense. It's probably the most misunderstood of all the holy days. People once feel bad. Where I live, they like it when Easter's early because then generally Good Friday will be at a time when there could even be snow and be miserable. You can bank on that. The weather will be bad, gray, you can look outside and feel real bad. So you can get in the mood to feel bad. And you're supposed to come to church and feel bad because it's a bad time. Well, then why didn't they call it Bad Friday? Why didn't they call it Ugly Friday? Ugly and Bad Friday. Come and we're going to celebrate Ugly Bad Friday and you'll feel bad. You come feeling bad, you go home feeling worse. A lot of people think that's how it's supposed to be. Why? Well, because they haven't understood it very carefully. They're taking what you read in Matthew, Mark, and Luke and they're applying it to Good Friday, but it doesn't work on Good Friday. It works on Palm Sunday. And if you read the Passion narrative of Matthew, Mark, or Luke, then you should feel bad. It is bad. Jesus is a victim. He's brutally killed in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. You were here last year. We went step by step through Mark, and we saw how bad it can be, how bloody. We talked about crucifixion, flogging, all that stuff. And yes, Palm Sunday, when you read that, and every year the church chooses a different gospel, a different passion narrative to read, selecting from Matthew, Mark, or Luke, depending on what the gospel cycle of that year is. This year it is Matthew. Palm Sunday, you will read the passion narrative of Matthew. But that's not how it works on Good Friday. Good Friday, we will read the passion narrative of John. And the church is very careful in the way it set this out. It is supposed to be the passion narrative of John. You are not supposed to read Matthew, Mark, and Luke, because those are very different stories indeed. They do not fit Good Friday. Good Friday is the time when Jesus will die. Now, we have several ways we can look on that. We can look on that sadly and say, well, it just didn't have to be It's a shame that he had to die like that. But that's not the mentality behind the liturgy. That's not why we come together to celebrate Good Friday. We celebrate, literally, his death. But we understand his death in a very positive way. Not the way in which we would if we only read Matthew, Mark, and Luke. When you read the Passion narrative of John, you will notice certain things happen there that don't happen in the others. First of all, remember Matthew, Mark, and Luke, Jesus very passive, has no defense. He's all alone. His disciples have left him. And he doesn't say much. He's drug into these two different courts, the so-called Jewish court of the Sanhedrin, and over to Pilate, and he gets accused of this, that, and the other thing. He doesn't say much back. They flog him. It almost kills him. And they make sport of him, ridicule him, blaspheme against him. And then they crucify him, and he dies with those words of dereliction on his lips. My God, why have you forsaken me? And it's really sad. He is a victim. You don't find that in John. Check it out. Look at the Passion narrative of John. He's totally in charge. He's the aggressor. He goes out and tells the people, oh, you're looking for me? Well, I'm right here. You don't have to look any further. I'm right here. What do you want? Really? You're looking for? Well, I'm he. I told you that. How many times do I have to tell you? And pretty soon you're kind of, well, where's the sadness? Where's the victimization? Remember, they're supposed to take hold of him. They don't. He starts telling them where to go, where to be, what to say. And then he puts that poor Pontius Pilate, who doesn't have a chance, he gets put on trial. And before you know it, you're kind of smiling. Go, look at it. That's the way I like to see it. Come on, you can do this. And, he does in big time. You have to pinch yourself, saying, I'm going to feel bad. This is not something to feel bad about. This is watching the Messiah in charge. He is in charge from beginning to the end. He's not going to die until he's good and ready. And when he dies, there's not going to be any, my God, why have you forsaken me stuff. He's just going to look out, he's going to get his mother a place to stay, he's going to have a little conversation, make sure everything is absolutely in place. And then he just nicely says, you know, this is all done, this is finished, complete. And rather than be sad and cry, you want to jump up and clap and applaud like at a grand opera where the final song has been sung. And this is great. Of course, you have to know this is the way John designs it. For John, the crucifixion is the exaltation. Being lifted up on the cross is being exalted. It is not being killed as a victim. It is the hour toward which Jesus has been walking. Every moment of his life, he finally has achieved it. You don't need anything else. If your Bible stopped at the crucifixion, you would not feel cheated. You would if you read Matthew, Mark, and Luke. You can't stop there. You got to have more. In John, you don't. He has arrived. He has conquered, he is exalted, he's home free and taking us with him. That's the way that gospel operates. You see, that's how that liturgy is set up on Good Friday. And yet, we don't even pay attention to the fact it's Good Friday. This death, which by most people's standards should be a negative experience, in Jesus is going to be a positive experience. It is a saving event. And it's celebrated as